Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Because Football Podcast. We've got another Icarus Cup edition. And on this episode, we've got Evan Carabelli of Spicy Meatballs FC out of Philly. Evan, welcome to the podcast.
Happy to be here.
Awesome, man. So I know you guys are Icarus Cup OGs, originals, 5 years. How did your team get started originally?
Yeah, so the team is just kind of a collection of guys that I've played with over the years in Philadelphia. I grew up just outside of Philly, so played high school in the area and then club in the area, and then went to college at Penn undergrad and played on the club soccer team there. So guys that have stayed in the area and then guys that I've kind of played with over the years. That the Spicy Meatballs is our 7v7 team. So we played some small-sided leagues in Philly, and then I got to know Rob, who founded Icarus. And when he told us about this tournament, it was kind of like, seemed like a perfect fit. And we signed up the first year and it was a good time. And then kind of each year it's gotten bigger and better. And it's become kind of like an event for our group where now over the course of the last 5 years, like some people have moved out of Philly and we have guys that will come back and stay for the weekend just to play in the tournament. So it's something we kind of have on the calendar early.
So cool, man, that you're able to keep even guys out of town connected with the group because of the tournament. And I got to ask too, I love the name, man. Where does Spicy Meatballs? Is there an origin story with that? Did it just appear out of thin air? What's the story with that?
Yeah, so the main group of guys that I started playing 11s with in Philly after I finished college were a lot of guys that were originally from like the like River Ward sections of Philly, so like Fishtown, Kensington, and Brighton area.
Okay.
So it was like a fairly like Irish, German heavy kind of team, and I was like the first Italian dude they had on the team. So it made sense that like my kind of spin-off from that team would be something Italian influence. So we came up with the Spicy Meatballs. I also like to cook pasta in particular, so it was fitting. I don't know if you can see, but back in the kind of early tournaments, we had custom
zoom in there. Let us see.
Designed for Spicy Meatballs crust.
Amazing. You mentioned meeting Rob and kind of being drawn to Icarus Cup, and you guys had played in, CASA for years. So there's that connection too, as CASA's organizing the tournament. But what do you think it is that like initially drew you guys to the opportunity and has kept you coming back each year?
Sure. The original, I think, was just kind of like the novelty factor with it, where you grow up playing in these weekend tournaments for years, and then all of a sudden you're in college and after, and it's like maybe you have a Sunday league team that you play in, but it's a lot of guys like showing up at 9:50 for a 10 o'clock game, you play, and then like get off to go home afterwards. And this was an opportunity to like really kind of hang out for the day. And Rob always kind of talked about the like festival atmosphere that he wanted to do with it. So the first year we kind of like signed up on a whim a little bit because obviously it was the first year, like nobody knew what it was going to be like.
Yeah.
So the idea of like being able to play multiple games and against teams that you don't necessarily know that are coming in from out of town, all in a day was a really cool idea. And then we did it and then loved it. And then kind of each subsequent year, it's kind of gotten bigger and better with like food and vendors. And now it's become a thing where like there's teams from New York that we've played multiple years. So it's kind of like, oh, when we're at the tournament, like maybe we'll play them again, or like maybe we'll swap gear with those guys. So it's become like a cool kind of soccer culture thing for all of us that have like regular jobs to be able to have that weekend of the year where we still like get to do that.
And as you mentioned before, like having that on the calendar as a big event that everybody's got to make sure, we don't have any family interference or events or vacations. You gotta have the weekend free for Icarus Cup. And you mentioned kind of that festival aspect, which I've been going the last 2 years, and I think that's what's really struck me. I think you have a great number of teams. You've got 6 to 10 or more games going on at a time, and that's just at one venue. And then you've got food, you've got beer, you've got all the sponsors who are coming. But what is it that you guys get into during the day? What are kind of the feelings? Because on the field, it can be a slog at times.
Yeah, I would say like kind of early on, it's a little bit focus on the games, kind of kicking the rust off, especially because we're a sevens team that's not necessarily like playing week in and week out. So kind of getting used to each other a little bit and knowing that it's going to be a long day. And then kind of once we hit that like lunchtime and after and like see the playoff seedings and like you kind of see the finish line, then it's a check out a little bit more of the stuff, get some good food, and then obviously like some refreshments post game are cool. And this past year we actually the sponsor for our kit was a local Italian restaurant and luncheonette that's like a couple of blocks from me. So it was like literally a perfect fit. So like
Perfect.
we all
Yeah.
went over there, and they were jazzed to see us and hear that we were actually like doing like reasonably well in the tournament. And like a couple of the guys from the restaurant would, like, come out and watch the rest of our games for the tournament. So it was
It's
kind of,
so cool.
yeah, getting to know the
So
sponsors for the
cool.
different teams and just kind of promoting all that stuff.
Yeah, awesome. And I love that community piece too of like now you guys have that connection with the restaurant, and maybe that's a kind of a tradition with you guys going there and they're coming out to support. And maybe soon they'll have this official spicy meatballs menu item too.
Yeah, maybe they can do like a weekend special for the tournament or something.
Exactly. Awesome. And where have a lot of these guys on your team come from? Like, is it work? Is it childhood? As many of us could probably identify, like, I don't know, so and so just showed up and we've been playing together for 10 years. But how is that kind of like assembled, and how do you kind of reinforce the ranks throughout the years?
The reinforcing the ranks is like always the challenge, like especially now that we're like an over 30s team and we're all like for the most part mid-ish 30s. The issue is like all of your
Yeah.
friends are also mid 30s, so it's tough to get like fresh legs. But I would say a lot of the original core was guys that I played club soccer with at Penn. That was kind of like one of the pipelines. And then through that original 11s team, there were some guys who played college ball at Chestnut Hill College, which is a small school in Philly. So that was kind of one of the
Yep.
pipelines. But as
Okay.
you know, it also was just like kind of random. Like one of the guys that we started playing with was like a coworker of mine's husband, and she like brought him out to a happy hour thing, and she was like, "Oh," and we all work in medicine, and he was like, "Oh," she was like, "I don't know if you guys will have anything in common with him. He doesn't work in a hospital. Like, what are you guys going to talk about?" And within 5 minutes, he's like, "Oh yeah, I played soccer in college." And then all of a sudden, it's like, "What team do you follow? Do you want to start playing with my men's league team?" And now he's like back to living up in Boston and came in for the tournament last year.
Amazing.
So it's just kind of like once you have a core, I feel like you might meet somebody that is kind of like looking for that next team to play with. So as long as you have a solid foundation, you can kind of pick up guys here or there.
And you mentioned a lot of you guys having families and stuff as well. So does that mean you have the next generation of Icarus ballers out there too? The kids
Yeah.
out there running around as well, kind of being part of the whole atmosphere. Because I think that's what I love. You got kids too, and then I also love seeing the soccer moms and dads who just will snatch at any opportunity to watch their kids play soccer again.
Yeah. So we're kind of in that transition phase, I'd say. So most of the team has kids, but most of them are probably like under 4. So it's a little young to kind of be like out in the heat all day and like running around
Yes, yeah,
playing. Because
yeah.
the attention span's like a touch shorter then. But my son does like the youth, like super youth soccer thing. So hopefully in like the next kind of year or two, once the attention span gets longer and he's running around a little bit more, can start to get them out and knocking the ball around. But we definitely have our eyes on the youth academy at this point. So
Yeah, definitely the next generation coming through. Very cool. And so since you guys have been doing it for a few years, how's your performances generally been? And then what's your hope for the 2025 edition?
yeah, I'd have to check with Rob about the actual stats, but we probably have the most wins for a team that's never won the tournament. So out of the 4 years that we've played, we've made the finals 3 times, and gotten like more or less worked in all 3 of those finals that we made. So we tend to make a decent run. Um, the first couple of years, it was like a little bit surprising because we were a relatively old team compared to everybody else. So when he opened the 30s division last year, it was like, thank God. I don't think that we could do like
This is
one
our
more year.
place. Yeah.
Yeah, running
Yeah.
with the guys who like just finished college. Yeah, so we've been pretty successful overall, but hoping to actually bring home some hardware this time.
Yeah, it just sounds like that final match. There's a lot to that because it's a long day, man. It's a long day,
Yeah.
and the fact that maybe you don't always play together a lot, it's very impressive. We talked about trying to get some of that chemistry right and just get back in the flow with each other. You guys have any tested strategies for that? I mean, obviously you must do a decent job at it, given that you have made finals runs so consistently.
Yeah, so a lot of guys we've played with for so long. Like I started college in 2005, so there's guys on the team that I've played with for like almost 20 years.
Mm.
So with that, it's kind of like where somebody wants the ball, how they're going to be positionally and things like that. And we're lucky that we have a very good goalkeeper and a really good target forward. So we always kind of start out the first couple games as like absorbing pressure a little bit, knowing that we're not going to concede and that we can kind of catch teams on the counter with like a target player who can hold the ball up. So there's a lot of games where we're like, won't have much possession for the first, 5-7 minutes or so, but then tend to capitalize when we have a good chance.
Those are two key positions, a finisher
Yeah.
to just pounce on any scraps, and then your goalkeeper. What do you think it is about the organization, about, what CASA is doing to kind of prepare the event, and then kind of the kits on the Icarus side? Like, what is it that kind of makes this a really special event for you guys to make it worth it, to make it such a key marquee event on the calendar?
Sure. I think that one of the things that really helps the event stand out is like the amount of dedication and thoughtfulness people have with organizing things. Like, CASA is run by volunteers, so it's all people like us who are adults who want to play, who want a high quality competitive league that's not just for people who are like super elite players, but finding a way to have kind of competitive divisions for multiple skill levels. So they've spent a lot of time building that over the years, and having played in CASA for that long, kind of seen that grow, and help them kind of develop that organization that's targeted to that. And the same thing they've done with their involvement with Icarus is that they want a tournament that's well organized, that kind of has divisions. So you show up and you know that you're going to go and have a number of competitive games, that you're not going to play a team that's going to completely steamroll you, or play teams that aren't showing up and like ready to play. And then the Icarus company in particular, part of it is awesome because the kits are so unique. And that's one of the things that, like, both with our 11 squad, which was called Stony United, that had played in CASA forever, and then with the Spicy Meatballs, we've always kind of prided ourselves on having some of like the coolest or most interesting kits over the years. So trying to find like good sponsors and doing good custom stuff. And Robbie puts like so much effort into the design of all the kits, and the like kit selection process is one of the things that we kind of have highlighted on the calendar too. Like, as soon as the email goes out to like pick the jerseys for the year, I'm like immediately online, like screenshotting stuff, like texting the core group of guys, like, all right, this one or that one. So all of those kind of unique features, and the fact that it's like ridiculously affordable for like a jersey, an entire like weekend of soccer, and all kinds of cheap vendors, is like really, really kind of manageable for everybody. So it's a very unique product at a very affordable price. So I think that's one of the things that's kind of always brought guys back to.
100%. Yeah, and I think you touched on both the organizational piece. I mean, when you go and show up there, whether it's at Drexel or they've had the temple sites, like you can feel that and sense it, like the thought and the consideration that's gone into it, and then it's allowed it to reach at this point, right? With now multiple divisions, and they're going to have definitely upwards of 60 teams at least in Philly. So it's really a incredible way of bringing kind of the soccer community together, not just in Philly, but some teams from around the country as well. You touch on the jerseys piece, which I think to the eye is the most obvious thing that sets the tournament apart too. I mean, that's what initially drew me to Icarus years ago, is seeing some of their designs and their taste and kind of that aesthetic personality they put out that's associated with the game. I didn't know that you could have a hand in the selection process. Like, of everything we've talked about, your role there of getting that into the group chat and making sure you guys act quickly, that seems like absolutely paramount.
Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of cool because if you look at the jerseys that they have for each tournament, it's like truly the spectrum from like pretty straight-laced, like classic type look, to stuff that's like totally off the wall. So it's cool because you get to find a jersey that fits your team's personality also.
Yeah.
So like we tend to go towards like a little bit more of a clean look, but have some unique aspects to it, which we've been able to hit on over the years, which like Robbie has some options. Some teams are going for like the kind of like way more like loud, flamboyant type look, where it's like a one-time tournament. Let's have like the craziest kits we can possibly have. So having that kind of personality of your team reflected in the kit, and then also you kind of like have a little bit of judgment of the other teams that you're playing, also based off of the kits that they selected. So it just adds a little bit of personality to it.
Yeah, you make a great point too with kind of the range of kits. I always say that, like, not only does Icarus never miss, but to your point, there's everything from, sleeveless kits a la Cameroon, and I think what
Yeah.
2002 was it back in the day, or you've got your really bright fluorescent colors, then you've got your collars. You even see sometimes like the very formal classic look, as you said, bringing like the Cantona Man Uniteds to mind, and so like the way that they're able to combine and off themes. I think last year the theme was world cities. It was kind of like the canvas that they started with and grew from there. So I'm excited to see this year's too. And I think you talk about the memories that you guys take from each event, and that's how it keeps you coming back. But like you said, the fact that you guys get to keep those jerseys, that's something that you've got to sport. I mean, I've got my Icarus kit on, and I know that a lot of the guys are wearing them throughout the year, or even, as you mentioned, swapping them too, doing the official kit swaps. Like, it really just brings this whole extra dimension, because I feel like the majority of your adult leagues and things like that, they might be able to get the event together, but then you're just throwing on pennies over a shirt. Or like the classic men's league of, sure, you might have a team kit, but Bill forgot his, and Joe's, had a blood stain from last week, so he's wearing like a slightly different kit, and it's always just like a little bit thrown together. But I think that the aesthetic piece of it just gives a really nice, clean, sharp look, and also a little wacky and outside the box too, to the weekend.
Yeah, and I'm not sure. I mean, Robbie could probably answer. I'm not sure if they've actively design kits after they have sponsors, or have tried to like kind of match the sponsors with the kits. Because the one that we had last year, I mentioned, I actually have it here.
Let's see, man.
For this restaurant near us called Pafuda, which is like an Italian luncheonette and like restaurant also, and it has kind of the like old school Italian like tablecloth. It's like checkered red and white look to it.
Yeah.
So it was like it fit perfectly with the sponsor, and then like with our team's personality. So finding one of those things is kind of like firing on all cylinders is awesome.
Yeah, awesome. My design and artistic vocabulary is going to fail me, but definitely see how that would fit your guys' vibe and identity. So hoping for another banger. I'm sure you're going to get another classic for this year. But other than kind of making that another finals run and hopefully bringing home the trophy, what's kind of some of the things going on in the Icarus Cup group chat these days for Spicy Meatballs, as we're just a few months out for the tournament?
Kind of calm before the storm now, and then like once the kit selection hits is like when it really kind of explodes. So I think that one of our favorite things also is just like once we get the final head count, like the active like last minute recruiting of like who's the last like guy or two we're going to pull in, because that's also one of the most fun things. It's like a number of us have played for most of the years, and then you invite somebody who's not as familiar with it to come play, and they're like, oh, like a one-day soccer tournament, like what's that going to be like as an adult? And they get there and they're like, holy shit, this is like way more fun and like way more organized
100%.
than I actually thought it was going to be. So that's one of the favorite things for us too, is just to be able to like share that with new guys and get people on board.
Yeah, for sure. And that's a sentiment that's been echoed too, of like, bringing the first timer in and getting to see their experience. And then you have another one into the fold, one more spicy meatball as part of the crew. So brilliant, man. Evan, this has been awesome. We're definitely going to look out for you guys on the pitch this summer, this July in Philly, and hoping for success, good times, and a healthy blast of a weekend for you guys at Spicy Meatballs FC. As this is the Because Football episode, we're going to put you to the same test as all of our regular guests here. And that is, could you complete the sentence, because football
is the best?
That sentiment, we're going to see that echoed again in the work that CASA is doing, the work that Icarus FC is doing to bring together arguably one of the best adult grassroots soccer tournaments in the country too, and definitely the best dressed, definitely the best kids too, and then arguably one of the best soccer cities in the country. I think that Philly's got so much to offer. I know they got Austin as well and Boston, but with Philly being kind of where it all started, we're going to lay claim to that and run with that of being such an influential city in the country. And I think it speaks to the fact that we've got teams coming from outside of the city, for a 1-day adult tournament. It's kind of unheard of to take that step. So awesome, man. Evan, any final words here? I know you guys aren't as heavy on the socials, but I'm sure everybody's gonna check in on the official Icarus Cup socials to follow you guys' progress this summer.
Yeah, just look for the best dressed over 30s team, probably losing in a final, and you'll find us.
At least one thing can be said for you guys: you're consistent, right? Consistency is key. Well, thank you so much. And to everybody listening and watching, we appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Hope it's increasing your anticipation and excitement for the Icarus Cup 2025. And hopefully we'll see you guys this July in Philly. Peace.